Okay, so imagine this, right? A single coffee bean.
Okay.
It's grown like way up high in the Peruvian Andes.
Wow.
And it makes this incredible journey from, a farmer's hand all the way to your cup.
Yeah, that's quite a trip.
It really is. And that's kind of what we're diving into today with Goldar Fever Specialty Coffee.
Oh, interesting.
Now, have you heard about them?
I have. Yeah, they're doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, they have like this really unique approach. They work directly with these Peruvian farmers.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, and they focus on these things called micro lots.
Yeah, so it's about more than just like a good cup of coffee, right?
Exactly. It's the whole story,
It is. It's the sustainability, the fair trade, the people behind it all.
Yeah, like where these beans actually come from.
And speaking of microlots, that's one of the things that really sets Gold Rush Fever apart.
Yeah, what is it about those? What makes those so special?
Well, instead of these massive farms, just churning out tons and tons of beans, microlots are these like small plots of land
Mm-hmm.
that are meticulously cared for. It's like each one has its own personality, you could say.
Yeah.
With unique flavors that are shaped by the altitude, the soil, even the climate.
So each one's like a little bit different.
Exactly. And it's not just coffee. It's like,
More specialized.
way more specialized.
So instead of just being like coffee, each micro lot is kind of like, what, a limited edition or something?
Yeah, exactly. Like a rare vintage of wine.
Oh, wow.
Only a handful of bags are produced from each one, which makes them super special for,
For people who are really into their coffee.
exactly, coffee enthusiasts.
Yeah, so like not just your average cup.
No, not at all. And because Gold Rush Fever works directly with these farmers,
Cuts out the middleman.
cuts out the middleman. Yeah, so the farmers are actually earning a fair wage for all their hard work.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is. It's about, giving back to the people who are actually growing the coffee.
Yeah, instead of some huge corporation just profiting off of all their labor.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about the fair wage either. These farmers are really committed to sustainable practices,
Like what?
like shade-grown coffee.
Now, for people like me who I like a good cup of coffee, but I'm not like, a total coffee nerd.
Sure.
What is shade-grown coffee and why is it important?
So shade-grown basically means the coffee plants are grown under a canopy of trees,
Okay.
which is really cool because it creates this natural habitat for birds and other wildlife.
Oh, wow.
But it also helps to regulate the temperature and the moisture levels.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and all of that leads to a much richer, more flavorful bean.
So it's like good for the environment and good for the coffee.
Yeah, it's like a win-win for everybody, the farmers, the environment, and of course, the people who get to drink the coffee.
And we get amazing coffee. That's amazing. It really is like this whole holistic approach.
It is, and it's reflected in the taste.
How so?
Talking about coffee with like complex flavors, vibrant citrus notes, creamy chocolate undertones, delicate floral aromas.
Wow, that sounds pretty incredible.
It is, and you're not going to find those kinds of flavors in like your average bag of supermarket coffee.
No, you really do get what you pay for with coffee, don't you?
Dude, this is like another level.
It really flips the script, this whole micro lot concept, because we're so used to like mass-produced everything.
We are.
But this is about quality over quantity, right?
Exactly. It's like a return to a more like traditional,
Like a slower, more mindful way of doing things.
exactly, slowing down, appreciating the craft, recognizing the value of like small-scale sustainable practices.
I love that.
And it's about understanding that like every choice we make as consumers, it has an impact.
It really does.
So by choosing something like Gold Rush Fever, you're not just buying coffee.
Right.
You're supporting a movement.
I like that. You're supporting a movement. It's a good way to put it.
It's bigger than just a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the coffee, like you mentioned shade grown, how does that actually, like, what difference does that make to the taste for someone like me who I enjoy a good cup, but I'm not like a connoisseur or anything?
Think about it this way. A coffee plant that's grown in the shade, it matures more slowly, right?
Right.
So the beans have more time to develop these complex sugars.
So it's like they're not rushed.
Exactly. And that translates to a smoother, less bitter cup of coffee with a more nuanced flavor profile.
Oh, okay.
It's like the difference between a homegrown tomato that's bursting with flavor
Yeah.
and a bland supermarket tomato.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So it's all about taking the time to let those flavors develop naturally.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. And that commitment to quality extends to their roasting process as well.
Okay, so how does that work?
They use small batch roasting, which allows them to really carefully control the roast level.
So each batch is kind of like treated individually.
Yeah, you could say that it's like giving each batch the royal treatment, which is very different from mass-produced coffee, which is often over-roasted.
Yeah.
And when you over-roast, you basically destroy all those delicate flavors that make specialty coffee so special.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's all about preserving those nuances, those subtle notes that make each microlot so unique.
So it's not just like a one-size-fits-all approach to roasting.
Not at all. It's tailored to each specific type of bean.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't cook a delicate fish the same way you'd cook a steak.
No, you wouldn't.
Each one needs its own special treatment to bring out its best qualities.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, so by carefully controlling the roast, they're able to enhance those subtle flavors that make each microlot so unique.
Now, you mentioned earlier that some of the microlots are actually located within protected areas of the Peruvian rainforest.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
And so that means, like, by choosing this coffee, we're also helping to preserve these incredible ecosystems, right?
Absolutely. Many of these farms are in areas that are vital for biodiversity. And because Gold Rush Fever prioritizes sustainable practices,
Yeah.
they're ensuring that these farms can thrive without harming the surrounding environment.
I mean, I'm already starting to see how Gold Rush Fever is just doing things differently.
They really are.
It's like they're not just talking about sustainability and fair trade, they're actually living it.
They are, and they're sharing that story with their customers through every bag of coffee.
I like that. It's like transparency in action.
It is, and that's something that's increasingly important to consumers today.
Totally. Like, we want to know where our food comes from, how it's made, who's benefiting.
Exactly, and Gold Rush Feeder gives us that peace of mind.
Yeah, and no, it's not just peace of mind. It's an incredible coffee experience.
It really is. It's so much more than just a caffeine fix, you know?
It really is.
It's about connecting with the origin of your coffee, understanding the journey it took to reach your cup,
Yeah.
appreciating the people and the planet that made it all possible.
It's about savoring every sip.
Exactly, and knowing that you're part of something bigger, something that's making a real difference in the world.
And that's what I call a good cup of coffee.
I think so too. And you know what? We're just getting started.
We are.
Let's dive deeper into the specific flavors and stories behind these microlots.
Okay, I'm ready for more. So we've talked about shade-grown coffee and, sustainable practices and all that. But I'm really curious about, like, the actual taste.
Right.
The source material mentioned, like, incredibly unique and complex flavors coming from these microlots.
Yeah, you're not going to find your typical coffee flavors here.
Oh, really?
No, like one article, it described this one microlot that had like these silky chocolate notes
Oh, wow.
and a hint of citrus.
Mm.
And then another one talked about a coffee that had like this floral aroma
Wow.
and sweetness that reminded you of brown sugar.
That's pretty different from my usual dark roast.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it sounds like there's a whole world of flavors to discover here.
There really is.
But I'm wondering, how do they make sure each cup actually lives up to those descriptions? Like,
Right.
roasting coffee seems like a pretty delicate process.
Oh, it is. It's critical. Roasting is key.
Yeah.
And Gold Rush Fever, they use this small batch roasting process, which gives them way more control over how the beans are roasted.
So they can, like, really fine-tune it?
Yeah, they can adjust the time, the temperature,
Hmm.
to perfectly match the unique characteristics of each microlot.
So it's not just like a one-size-fits-all approach?
No.
They actually, like, tailor the roasting to each specific type of bean?
Exactly. Think of it like cooking. You wouldn't cook a delicate fish fillet
Right.
the same way you'd cook a thick steak, right?
No, of course not.
Each one needs its own, like, special treatment to bring out its best quality.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, so with the roasting, by carefully controlling it, they can actually enhance those subtle flavors that make each microlot so unique.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's really about, like, preserving the individual character of each one.
It is, and that attention to detail goes beyond just the roasting process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Gold Rush Fever also provides, like, detailed information about each microlot on their website.
You mean like tasting notes and stuff like that?
Yes, tasting notes, information about the farm where the coffee was grown. They even have photos and stories about the farmers
Oh,
who
wow.
cultivated the beans. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
It allows you to connect with, like, the people
Yeah.
and the place behind your cup of coffee on a whole new level.
Wow. So it's not just about the taste then.
No.
It's like the whole experience.
It is. You get this glimpse into, like, the culture, the
Yeah.
history, the passion that goes into producing these beans.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's about transparency and storytelling, which I think is something that, like, consumers are really craving these days,
Totally.
That authenticity, that connection to something real.
It's like you're not just buying a product, you're buying into a whole philosophy.
You are, and Gold Rush Fever is really challenging that, like, traditional model of the coffee industry, which often prioritizes profit over people and the planet.
Yeah.
They're showing that it's possible to do business in a way that's ethical, sustainable, and still incredibly delicious.
It's really cool. Like, I'm starting to understand why they named the company Gold Rush Fever.
Yeah,
It's like they've struck gold with this unique approach.
they have.
Like this idea of treating coffee as like this precious commodity.
It is precious.
Something to be like savored and appreciated.
Yeah, and it's not just about like the exclusivity either.
Yeah.
Remember, these micro lots are incredibly limited.
Right.
Sometimes they only have a few bags of a particular coffee available.
Oh, wow.
So when it's gone, it's gone.
So it's like a treasure hunt for the perfect cup of coffee.
It really is. It creates that sense of urgency, like,
Yeah.
desire to discover these hidden gems before anyone else.
That's really neat. It's exciting.
It is. And because each micro lot is so unique, it encourages you to like step outside of your comfort zone and try something new.
Yeah.
You might discover a coffee that you never knew you loved.
I have to admit, I'm usually like a creature of habit when it comes to my coffee.
I get that.
But after learning all this, I'm definitely really inspired to like branch out a little.
That's the beauty of specialty coffee.
Yeah.
It's a journey of exploration, and Gold Rush Fever is the perfect guide for that journey.
I love that, a journey of exploration. And you mentioned earlier that Gold Rush Fever is all about transparency.
They are.
What are some ways that they're actually putting that into practice? I mean, beyond just like providing information on their website.
Well, one thing that really stood out to me in the research was their commitment to traceability.
Traceability.
Yeah, you can literally trace your coffee back to the specific micro lot it came from.
Really?
They provide details about the farm, the altitude it was grown at, the processing method used, even the harvest date.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a passport for your coffee beans.
It is. It is.
But like, what's the benefit of knowing all of that?
It gives you this deeper understanding of the coffee you're drinking.
Right.
You start to appreciate the nuances,
Yeah.
the subtle differences between each cup,
Hmm.
and it creates a stronger connection between you and the farmer who grew it.
So it's about like building relationships, not just transactions.
Exactly. And that level of transparency also holds Gold Rush Fever accountable.
Okay.
For their ethical sourcing practices, consumers can see for themselves that the farmers are being paid fairly
Right.
and that sustainable practices are actually being implemented.
So it's a win-win. It's good for everyone.
It is. It's good for the consumer. It's good for the farmer. It's good for the planet.
They've really thought of everything.
They have. That commitment to quality and ethics is it's evident in every aspect of their business.
You know, one thing that struck me in the research was how Gold Rush Fever really emphasizes the cultural heritage of these Peruvian coffee-growing communities.
Oh, yeah. That's really important.
Yeah.
Many of these farmers come from indigenous communities that have been cultivating coffee for generations.
Wow.
It's a tradition that's passed down, from parent to child.
So it's not just about the coffee itself.
No.
It's about preserving a way of life.
It is, and Gold Rush Feeder recognizes the value of that cultural heritage.
Yeah.
By partnering directly with these farmers, they're helping to ensure that those traditions continue to thrive.
It's like they're weaving together these beautiful stories, the story of the coffee, the story of the farmers,
Yeah.
the story of the land itself,
Uh,
and we get to experience all of that through each cup.
That's what makes Gold Rush Fever so special. They're not just selling coffee, they're selling an experience, a connection to something meaningful.
Speaking of experience, the research mentioned that Gold Rush Fever actually encourages people to do like a side-by-side taste test with their regular coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Seems pretty bold, don't you think?
It is bold, but I think it speaks to their confidence
Yeah.
in the quality of their product.
Yeah.
They want people to experience the difference for themselves.
It's like a challenge to branch out of our comfort zones and really open our palates to something new.
It is.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that once you've experienced like the richness and complexity of a Gold Rush Fever micro lot,
Right.
it's hard to go back to that mass-produced stuff.
Yeah, you might not want to.
I'm definitely curious now. Like, you've piqued my curiosity. I gotta try this coffee now.
You should.
See what all the fuss is about.
I won't spoil the surprise entirely.
Okay.
But let me just say that the flavor profiles of these Peruvian microlots are unlike anything you've probably tasted before.
Okay.
We're talking silky chocolate undertones, vibrant citrus notes, and a smoothness that's like almost impossible to find in mass-produced coffee.
It sounds incredible. It's like a symphony of flavors, like celebrating that unique, what is it, terroir?
Terroir, yeah.
Of the Peruvian Andes?
You got it.
That's really neat.
It's all thanks to the meticulous care and attention that goes into every step of the process, from the cultivation of the beans to the small batch roasting.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as a cup of coffee can be so complex, so full of history and culture and flavor.
I know, it's pretty amazing.
Gold Rush fever is really changing the game.
They are, and they're showing us that even our everyday choices can have a positive impact on the world.
I love that. It makes you really want to slow down, savor the moment, and really appreciate the journey that brought that cup of coffee to your table.
Exactly.
And to think, we're not even done yet. We still have so much more to explore.
We do.
I have to admit, my mind is officially blown. I never realized how much thought and care goes into a cup of truly great coffee.
It's a pretty involved process.
It really is, and Gold Rush Fever has managed to master it
Yeah.
while still, prioritizing ethical sourcing and environmental sustainability. It's pretty impressive.
It's a tough balance to strike, and they seem to be doing it well.
They do. So, okay, let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, this Gold Rush Fever coffee sounds amazing.
Right.
But is it really worth changing, my entire coffee routine for this?
I understand the hesitation. We're all creatures of habit.
We are.
We have our routines. But I think it's worth asking yourself, what are you really looking for in your coffee experience? Are you just looking for a quick caffeine fix?
Yeah.
Or are you open to, something more?
Right.
Something that engages your senses, connects you to something bigger?
I think for a lot of people, it's probably somewhere in between.
Yeah, probably.
They enjoy their coffee, but maybe they haven't thought that much about where it comes from
Right.
or the impact it has.
And that's where Gold Rush Fever really shines. They make it easy to be a conscious consumer.
How so?
Well, you get to enjoy a truly exceptional cup of coffee, but you're also supporting a company that's aligned with your values.
Makes you feel good about your purchase.
Exactly.
Now, I remember reading that Gold Rush Fever offers a coffee club subscription service.
Oh, yeah. Their coffee club.
What's the deal with that?
It's a great way to make sure you always have fresh, ethically sourced coffee on hand.
Convenient.
Super convenient, and you can choose the frequency of your deliveries.
Okay.
Customize your subscription based on your preferences.
So you could try different micro lots each month?
Absolutely. It's like having a curated coffee tasting experience delivered right to your doorstep.
I love that. That's pretty cool.
And you get that satisfaction of knowing that you're directly supporting those Peruvian farmers with every shipment.
I think what's really resonating with me is this whole idea that Gold Rush Fever isn't just selling coffee.
Right.
They're selling an experience.
Exactly. It's about slowing down, savoring the moment, appreciating the journey that brought that cup of coffee to your table.
It's almost a form of mindfulness, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Instead of just mindlessly gulping down your coffee.
Yeah.
You're taking the time to engage your senses, to notice the aroma, the flavor, the texture,
Yeah.
and your connection with the story behind the beans, the people who grew them, the land they came from.
It's a much richer experience.
It really is.
And it makes that morning cup of coffee feel so much more special.
It does. It transforms it from a simple routine into something meaningful.
You know what? I think you've convinced me.
Yeah.
I'm ready to jump on the Gold Rush Fever bandwagon.
I have a feeling you won't regret it. And remember, it's not just about the taste.
Right.
It's about making that conscious choice to support a company that's doing things differently, a company that's committed to quality, ethics, and sustainability.
So to wrap things up, let's go back to the beginning. Remember that journey we imagined? That single coffee beam traveling from the Peruvian Andes to your cup.
Oh, yeah. Quite a journey.
It's more than just a physical journey, isn't it?
It really is. It's a story of passion, dedication, and a deep respect for the land and the people who cultivate it.
And it's a story that we, as consumers, have the power to shape.
We do, with every purchase we make.
It's like we're casting a vote for the kind of world we want to live in.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
So let me ask you this. What if every cup of coffee could be a force for good?
That's a great question. And you know what? I think Gold Rush Fever is showing us that it's possible.
They're proving that even something as simple as a cup of coffee can be a catalyst for positive change.
Absolutely. And they're doing it with incredible flavor, which is the best part.
It really is a win-win for everyone. So there you have it, the Gold Rush Fever experience.
That's it.
It's about more than just a caffeine boost. It's about taste. It's about ethics. It's about connection. And ultimately, it's about making a difference.
It's about waking up to a better world, one delicious sip at a time.
I think that's the perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep enjoying this delicious moments of discovery.